There's a little mess. That's all good. But anyways, hi everyone. So, hopefully the stream is okay. It is, like the problem is around here of when I stream, it does have issues just because of where I live and my internet of the way it is. But it's all good. But anyways, something I want to talk about is modifications. And should your modifications be form, or should they be more function? And to be honest, for me, I don't really give a shit. I don't. It's interesting because there's this guy on TikTok that I've been kind of going back and forth with. He's just not understanding what the hell I'm trying to tell him. Because he's put it this way, like, because if you know, my hood scoop kind of yeeted itself on Monday due to a flaw in the fiberglass, which I knew about. I knew about that flaw, and it's just one of those things I was gonna try and fix when I got back home. I wasn't sure I was gonna do it, but I was gonna try and fix it before I did any more highway driving. But unfortunately, it just kind of flew off the car, right? And actually, I should change this to live chat so I can see all the messages if there isn't. So basically, like, if you don't know what happened, I'll just explain it very quickly here. So I have an 81 Mustang. If you have seen my channel before, seen my car, 81 Mustang, it's kind of a semi-famous car at this point, just because, like, it gets recognized a lot. And people do love it. Some people love it, some people hate it. The hood scoop that I had was an original pace car scoop from a 79 pace car, or potentially an early turbo scoop. I haven't really been able to decipher that, but my guess is that it's a pace car scoop because there's no evidence of it saying turbo on the side of the scoop. And that's how you can tell between a turbo one and a non-turbo one, although the pace cars could also come with that 2.3 turbo. And anyway, so there are a total of how many bolts hold it together? I think it's like 8 or 10 studs with nuts, to hold it onto the hood, right? And that's just how they were designed from the factory. It was never designed to be a functional scoop. I had plans to do that, but I wasn't sure how I was going to do it because I do daily drive my car. I didn't want snow getting in there, or even rain for that matter, to get into the carburetor, right? That's just a bad thing. So basically, the front middle stud actually broke away from the actual bodywork of the scoop. And unfortunately, I was not able to fix it just because of the constraints that I had of getting to the event. So it sucked, but it is what it is, right? And because Street Machine Weekend, Street Wheelers, I got there on Friday, and I didn't have any problems other than the car vapor locking, and which, and you can just chalk it up to basically me revving it and it being really hot, to be honest, and traveling not very fast along Mary McGrath. It happens, right? But it's interesting because this back and forth I'm having with this guy, because honestly, I wouldn't have even really called him out if he didn't be a disrespectful little ass with his comment of just calling my car a POS, and that it should, that because it's a non-functional scoop, whatever else. And the one thing is, I just look over at his profile just to see, like, what he drives, right? Because I'm always curious about that too, especially with anybody that's commenting on my stuff. I just want to see what they drive. And it's a little beater OBS GMC. Now, I'm not going to make fun of his truck or anything, because to be honest, OBS trucks are actually pretty good. They have their problems, but overall they're pretty good. And from what I could see, it was his grandfather's truck, and blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter. So, anyways, a lot of his videos show these what I initially called neon lights, although technically neon lights are a certain style of light, but the LEDs that you put in underneath your vehicle for underglow purposes, they can be different. Although, like, something that he said was that they're rock lights. But if they're gonna be true rock lights and actually function as rock lights, because what rock lights actually are, they are lights that are designed to light up the sides of the trail so that you can actually see where you're going over big rocks if it happens to be a little darker out. That's what they're designed for, right? And so, but the problem is, he hasn't shown his truck going off road at all. He's only showed it like in front of his house, and in like a parking lot with those lights on, acting like LED, like neon lights, right? And the one thing is, like, there's only about this much of his truck underneath of it that it's not really being shown by underglow, and that's just due to the fact of how freaking bright they are, right? So, okay, so we do, still actually going back and forth right now. It's ridiculous. And, it's one of these things, but truthfully, like, I don't really give a damn. I was just trying to prove a point that, like, if you're gonna call somebody out for something that's form over function, perhaps you should do something that's form over function, right? Because there are a few things on my car that are form over function, 100%, but I don't understand why it's such a taboo thing that people are so elitist about that sort of thing. I don't understand it one bit. And I truly wish I did, because then I could, better talk to you guys about it. Because really, it's kind of like this sort of elitist culture that isn't within the car hobby, and it kind of boils down to, honestly, a lot more stuff like, for example, oh, if you don't drive a manual, you're not a car enthusiast, and it's not a real car if it has a manual, it's not a real car if it has a V8, all that toxic blah 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 BS, right? And it's just ridiculous. Because, like, how many times that I was told that my Mustang's not a real Mustang because it doesn't have a V8 in it. But I did swap it to a manual, and that was just because I wanted to. It's not because I was being, like, forced into it or anything like that. It's just kind of silly. And, like, as an example, okay, let's throw my louvers as a form over function thing, because even though, yes, they do have an effect of cooling the interior of the car, but I didn't buy them for that purpose. I bought those louvers because they look cool, or at least I find that they look cool. That's the only reason. My big ass tires on my car. Again, those wheels and tires I bought because they looked cool. But those wheels and tires actually make the car slower. So there's that. And right now it's actually not getting the best fuel economy after it had the issue with the carburetor. Hi, Zach. How's it going? As you can tell, in this stream, I'm just talking about, modifications, and do you prefer form or function, or really doesn't matter? And for me, I don't care. The only thing that I say, although I kind of contradict this with my tires, but it's just, it looks so damn good, I can't say no to those, is, so, I'm basically of the mindset of you should do what you want to your car, you shouldn't let people dictate what you do to your car, and as long as it isn't, like, extremely detrimental to your vehicle, like, there is a thing where you can make it faster, but contrast to that is usually you make it more uncomfortable when you make it faster, to a certain degree. Like, as an example, I can actually take my buddy's 2020 GT California Special as a good example of this. So, like, my buddy Cody, he owns a 2020 GT California Special. And the thing is, I drove it when it was a bone stock car. I reviewed it when it was a bone stock car, and I loved it. Great car, to be honest. A car that I would go on a cross-country journey with, no problem, to be honest. Because it's comfortable, it's nice to drive, it's quiet, but you can have it loud if you want, because it's a Coyote with a 10-speed, it's a lot of fun to play with. But, he did some modifications to it, and I did drive it when it had some of those mods to it. And the one mod that he did was the suspension, and it just kind of ruined the ride quality, to be honest. And I don't know if it really made it handle better or not, because I really wasn't playing with it in the corners. And I mean, it's his car, to each his own. I think it's made it not quite as good as it was before, but it's not my prerogative, though, right? And it's just my opinion, and that's it, right? And it doesn't matter. My opinion should not matter to anybody, right? And that's the difference, right? Because I'm not one of these people that are online to be like, hey, you have to think the way I do. You have to build the car the way I am. I'm going, no. Although, if somebody were to actually copy me and my car and what I'm doing, power to them, to be honest. It's cool, it's unique, and, I wouldn't be offended if somebody was like, hey, I'm styling my car after you. In fact, I'd be quite flattered, and I want to know, like, more about your build and what exactly you're going to do with it. And, if you are going to make it just like mine, that's fine, but, like, I'd be curious to know if you're going to do anything to make it just like yours, or if you're just going to emulate my car, right? Because I don't really mind that. It's flattery more than anything, for me. There are some people that get upset if you modify your car like theirs, but nothing is original. Like, nothing is. Because even what I'm doing with my car, well, it is quite unique. It's not like there's inline sixes that haven't been built up before. Especially 200 inline sixes in, like, first-gen Mustangs. That, they have been modified in almost any way you can think possible. There's even a guy in one of the groups that is doing a wild customization on his inline six. So he's taken I think it's a 250 block, might even be a 200 block. And what he's doing actually is he's putting a Barra, like a 4-liter Barra head on it. Which, if you don't know what the Barra is the evolution of that 200 Sprint 6. And basically, Australia decided, well, we're going to modify the crap out of this, make it overhead cam, which that's what that head is. So he's actually making a car that was designed for, like, a block. It was designed for cam and block to be overhead cam, which is just amazing to see, to be honest. And I haven't seen progress of that in a few months. I should see if I can find that thing again. But to be honest, that is incredible, and that is probably a one of one. I would think. I don't think anybody's done that. And, like, have people done everything that I've done to a Fox body? Probably not. But it's one of those things. I'm not going to say, hey, mine's a one of one because of that. Who knows? Somebody may have done this 20, 30 years ago, prior to social media. Like, who knows, right? That is kind of the interesting thing, though. And I love my car, of course. And there is stuff that I still want to do to the car. A lot of it. Like, something that I am thinking about doing, because, like, this weekend, actually, I'm going up to Edmonton, and specifically going to be going further north than that, to actually participate in a dyno day and actually be working, and I'm going to make a little bit of money. And for the money I make from that, I'm going to probably swap the carburetor to my Holley carb. I will just get rid of the choke for now, because I don't really need it with the summertime, and I'll figure out how to set it up for a manual choke in the future, right? Because, again, my car's just not running 100%, especially after it had that issue of it with the vapor lock, to be honest, because that sucked. And, it's just one of those things, and just something went wrong with the carburetor at that point. It still drives just fine or anything, but you can tell the car is just not running 100%. And I don't know what it is, but I think it's probably the carburetor, because, again, when the fuel boiled in the fuel lines, right after that is when it started to do this. So it's like, okay. And it's getting worse fuel economy now, too. So just have a clean slate of a carburetor that's already fully rebuilt, because I rebuilt it myself. That's kind of the way to, I think, do it at this point. Plus, the Holley, I'll actually should gain some performance out of it, too. And it's easier tuning on it as well. If I want to change out jets, it's not taking the entire carburetor apart to get to the jets. Instead, it's only taking out 4 screws to take off the float bowl, and the jets are right there in the main body of the carburetor. It's a beautiful design, to be honest. And while, they can have issues of them leaking, but I don't really have too much of an issue or too much of a thing about that. I don't. If it leaks, well, it's so easy just to fix the leak, to be honest. Like, that's why when people say, oh, Hollies are junk, they leak, just put a little gasket on it. Or, if the gaskets aren't working anymore, if it's just kind of warped or whatever, well, they make, this stuff. Like, I wouldn't use straight up silicone because you don't want that in your system. But you can actually just put it on both sides of the gasket, actually, and where it mates to on both sides. Or at least put it on the side that... or I wouldn't say both sides. You want to put it on one side only because you want, if you need to do jet change and stuff like that, you want that gasket to come on and off, right? And be able to be reusable each time. Because otherwise you just destroy the gasket. So, just actually, there's a stuff that, I can't remember the name of it, but my buddy Keith actually has it in his shop, and we use it all the time when we're doing stuff with gaskets. Like, and I've used it a few times just with my personal stuff too. And it works fantastic. I can't remember the name of it, but it's a Permatex product. Hey, Fever. You want up? Come here. Hey, Fever, come here. Come here, bud. No? Come here. What are you doing? Over here you go. Little bum. There you go. Hi, bud. Yeah. Hi, Fever. You're being weird. But you're being weird. Like, if you want on that chair, you can have the chair if you want, but that's not for you, that's for me. But yeah, so, because it's interesting for me, like, when it comes back to Kate, Saber, stop it. That's not for you, that's not food for kitties. I just gave you food anyways, so, you bum. You trying to bum food off me? But so yeah, it's honestly just some stuff that I've just been kind of thinking about, and I think I'm gonna do a full sort of video on my channel about this of what, like, of my opinion, and to be honest, it's gonna be like reiterating what I said here about modifications. And like I said, for me, it shouldn't be a super detriment to your car. It either looks incredibly good, or it adds to the performance of the vehicle, is my thing. And but it doesn't make it more uncomfortable or anything like that, because for me, comfort is a big thing, because I have a bad back and everything due to a snowboarding incident that I had when I was 13. So it's just one of those things. It happens. So I want my vehicles to be comfortable, but still also be able to have the performance as well. Which, the tires, like I mentioned on my car, they make it slower. I will fully admit. And, it's one of those things. It's just one of those deals. It's not a big deal, though. Like I said, and who knows? Will I stay with those tires? We'll see. They're in really good shape, and I really love them. I just hope that one day that I actually make enough power to where those tires are actually useful instead of just for style, right? That's my goal. And to be honest, I could actually have those be for function rather than form if, whenever I get, whenever I can afford a cam to throw into the car and then do the turbo thing and all that stuff, I should make enough power from all that to actually, those tires would actually be useful. So, we'll see. Because I know when I had my winter tires in the car, it's kind of interesting. When I tried to launch it, it had a problem of tire shake, but those tires aren't very big. They are 205 70/14s. For reference, even my front tires are 225 65/15s. my rear tires are 275 60 14s, right? So it's just one of those things. Actually, I don't think it's 65. I think it's 60. Yeah, it's 60. Sorry. For the front, it's 225 60 15, not 65. So, like in the wintertime, yeah, I don't have very tall tires, I don't have very wide tires, but winter, to be honest, you don't want tall or wide tires. You want actually, I mean, not that the height of the tire really matters. It's more the width. You don't want wide tires in the wintertime. You actually want narrow tires. Because it puts more weight down and you can actually get more traction in the wintertime when it's slick and stuff like that when you have a thinner tire. It's kind of weird. It sounds so counteractive because you'd think you'd want the biggest surface area, but it doesn't work that way in the wintertime. It's kind of interesting, right? So it's just one of those things. And because it is interesting with modifications that way, because yeah, there's stuff in my car that it's totally form over function at the moment. And there's stuff like, as an example, my exhaust, and while it looks cool and everything, I don't really know if it's added too much in performance. Just because, like, if it was a single exhaust, it'd probably actually have better performance versus the dual exhaust. I personally think so. But it sounds freaking bitchin' with the dual exhaust, and that's why I'm keeping that. I'm not gonna go to a single exhaust, because again, when the car has the power that I want it to have, that dual exhaust will actually come into play. And it's not a true dual exhaust. It would just be, it's just wide off towards the middle of the car, or actually just after the collector, to be honest, on the after the downpipe. So it's wide off right about there, and then it goes into dual FlowPro mufflers, right? And those FlowPros, actually, I like them, to be honest. They sound really good. They're good quality and everything. And, it's one of those things. But again, those mufflers, and mufflers in general, are more form over function. Because they sound cool, right? That's why you put a muffler on your car. It's not for performance. 9 times out of 10, it's more like you want a certain sound out of it. And the performance is secondary to that. So it's one of these things, there's a give and take of the modifications you do to your car that way, of what do you do for form, what do you do for function. And to be honest, like, for me, like I mentioned, I think that your modifications shouldn't take away too much from either performance or comfortability of your vehicle, right? That's my thing. And it's pretty simple. Like, for me, I don't want, like, a super uncomfortable suspension. And that's one of the reasons why I haven't just gone to air shocks in the back, because I know that my ride quality will get worse, even if I have them aired all the way up, which if I have them aired all the way up, it'll sit more like that. Like, say that this is not a Fox body, but, it'll sit closer to, like, that, more, right? Have that rake at the back. And honestly, like, air shocks are expensive too. Where the Monroe shocks that I'm currently using you can get, a pair of them for like $60 basically off of Rock Auto. If I want air shocks, which is really only one company to go for air shocks, because I've done it the longest and they were the most popular back in the day, is Gabriel Hijackers, but they're like $200, right? So they're a little pricier. They're not the most expensive shocks you buy. You can get QA1 shocks, or you can get Bilstein shocks, stuff like that, right? It's just one of those things. And I am really, like, I do want to do more mods to the car, and there's stuff that I'm going to do that's going to be form over function 100%, because, like, I'm still debating, because I am going to repair the hood scoop, but what I might just do, to be honest, is I might still do that front-end conversion, and eventually swap out the rear quarters as well, eventually, but we'll see. We'll see when that happens. Because that's just one of those things, and the front conversion is a lot easier. It's just fighting the parts. And to be honest, like, my buddy, he has no problem swapping my parts for his. Um, and I'd be okay with that. Straight across swap is totally okay with me. And, maybe find an RS scoop in the future to use and make it functional. Because that's the beauty of the RS hood, or like just Capri hoods in general, is they have a space where you could basically make it functional. Which is awesome, you know? Um, and, we'll see. To be honest, we'll see how it goes. And it's just a little interesting, right? Because I still want to do, like I said, that whole Capri front clip, which just looks so cool on the car, to be honest. And I've always said that the Capris look better. Okay, what is this guy doing? He keeps doing laps around the block here, like, dude, it's 1:30 in the morning. What are you doing? But anyway, so I've always said that the Capri looks better than the Mustang in the Fox body generation. I love the way that a Fox body Capri looks. And I'm not in a minority with that. I think a lot of people agree, right? Because the Capri, it's interesting because they have this wide body look, even though they're not actually wide body at all. They're the same width, but the fenders and rear quarters just look better. They have a better looking front end, and their hoods, even the stock version of their hoods, look better than what the Mustang got. 100%. And it's just kind of interesting. They always had cooler looking taillights, in my opinion, too. Whether it's the the pre-facelift one or not, for the Capri. Because even, like, I might actually be going, like, swapping out my rear taillights for Capri taillights, but not the taillights that you think. Not the 7982. I might actually be doing the 83 to 86 taillights, which requires the bumper cover, but that's fine. I'm not really, like the... While the pace car bumper is cool, it doesn't really match. I mean, like, it matches the kind of vibe I'm going with the car, but it doesn't really match the car. Just because it's, it's not the same color, right? So, and painting that would just kind of ruin, like, why you have it in the first place. Because the pace car rear bumper covers is kind of interesting because they're silver, then they have a little it goes like a yellowy, closer to an orange stripe, and then it goes red stripe, and then there's that break in the bumper, and then the bottom of it is just all black. It's a good looking bumper, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I might go to the softer look with the Capri bumper. We'll see, to be honest. There's already a parts car out at my buddy's place that I could rob parts off of it. And that bumper cover, it just needs a little patch in it. It's not a hole, but it's just a crack. So I could fix that fairly easily, I think. And literally, it should just bolt right in. I'd have to look at it. Like, I'd have to take my bumper cover off, which it's not very hard to take them off. It's just a bunch of nuts that you have to take off. And then, so there is all those nuts in it. And then you'd have to take out the lights as well, because it's interesting. While because I'd have to look at a Capri, to be honest, to see how their taillights actually go in properly. And I wish I had just a set of those lights just to see, do they match up to the holes that are in the Mustang or not? Because I'm not sure, because they are smaller, in fact. But I'm sure they use the same holes, but I don't know. I'd have to really take a look at it, and to be honest, it would just be taking one apart and just seeing, because again, he has got a parts car, so it's not a big deal. But it's one of these things. And again, that's a form over function thing. 100%. Although it would change the aerodynamics of the back end of my car, to be honest, to have that bubble back there versus having just kind of that bumper that, goes down and like that. So, I don't know, we'll see. Because Yeah. I mean, and I don't even know if it would make a difference, only because of the whale tail I have too. It might just not make a difference at all, because the whale tail, it changes the aerodynamics and the ass end of that car a lot. And how I know that is because, like, if you have it off, it's kind of it dances down the road, but when you have it on, it really is a lot more planted. To be honest, it's still a little bit, and I that might just be due down to, like, I might need to change out some bushings in my suspension and stuff. Which, and that's the thing. I want to kind of swap out my suspension. Well, I replaced the rear coils in my car. I kind of want to go to a slightly stiffer coil out back, like even to say the heaviest stock coil that they make for the Mustang, and swap out the front coils as well, because the front coils are still the originals. The rear coils are swapped out. Um, you know, just so that the rebound on the back is a little better, and it should actually help with the axle hop a bit, um, with the traction, when I have smaller tires on it. So we'll see. And I mean, and it might not. To be honest, it might still do the exact same thing. But it is kind of interesting that my convertible doesn't do that, but my 81 does have that axle hop, which is so weird because the 86 has more power altogether, but the 81 has the manual, so I do have more power on demand versus the automatic. So, it's one of those deals, right? But yeah, we'll see how things go, to be honest. And if you're wondering, like, about the convertible and why I've been trying to sell it, to be honest. And that's the one thing, because I keep having somebody ask me about it and, like, why it hasn't really been on the channel. It's because, again, I've been trying to sell it. So that's why I haven't been doing videos on it. And something like I started up the other day and drove around the block. And after I did that, I plugged the battery in, and it's charging right now. Because the battery was a little dead. It took a minute for the car to start, but then it finally did, and I let it run for about 5 minutes or so. And then after I shut it off, I, grabbed my battery charger, and it's now hooked in, and it'll stay hooked in until it moves next time. So, and I should have been doing that in the first place, because, otherwise, because I think that battery might be, it's not cooked yet, but I think it might be a lot worse off than it was, and that's not a very new battery or a old battery, I should say. It's like a year old. So, but that's just how it goes, because I haven't really been driving the car, and it's just been sitting, right? And it's sat all winter, and I didn't really start it much during the winter. And it still runs like a top. It still has a couple of issues, though, like power steering pump still needs to be swapped out. And there is a header leak as well that I need to fix. But other than that, which is interesting because it's got stock. It's got stock exhaust headers on it, not aftermarket ones. But the problem is that they worked on the old engine, bolt them onto this engine, and they're just not working 100%. And I wonder if it's just like, I don't know, maybe that area of the head is a little fucky or something. I don't know. It seems like it seals just fine, but what can you do, right? It's just one of those deals. And there's still something that I need to look into that to see if I know anybody with like a sandblaster or something too, because there's that header in my shed that, it's off of an AMC. Well, it's off of actually a 4-liter Jeep and Cherokee, and I do want to look into that and just sandblast it, because it wouldn't be hard to sandblast it even myself, right? And it's a really good quality header, to be honest. It's a Pacesetter header, so, and it's a very expensive header if you were to buy it new. So I don't know, we'll see. And it's a header that I'd like to recondition and then try and sell on. So we'll see. But I think though, I think I'm actually just gonna end the live here. Be on the lookout for a video the next couple of days. And then there's gonna be some videos with the dyno day as well, because I'm sure I'm gonna film a couple of the vehicles, to be honest. And it's just one of those things, because when I'm working there, I'm gonna be helping strap the car down and stuff. And there's gonna be I'm gonna be working 3 dyno days in the next little bit, so over the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that, and who knows? Hopefully they're all successful, and that sort of thing. Because I can definitely use the money, especially right now. Plus, it's always fun to more cars we get, the better off it is. So, but anyways, I really appreciate you coming out, and thank you, Zach. You were the only one that commented, but I really do appreciate it. I hope you're having a fantastic time. I know you were having some issues for a bit, so I just want to say, hopefully everything is good. And yeah, and if you ever want to, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. To be honest, that's fine. Because that's an easy way to contact me. To be honest, so anyways, anybody else who's made it to the end here, hope you've had a fantastic evening or a fantastic day, and I'll chat to you later. So.